General, President Biden is cutting his weekend short and heading back to the White House this afternoon to meet with his national security team about the recent events. How do you interpret this? And as an offshoot to that, what do you think is the assessment that you would give for Iran's military capabilities?
I think that the reason he's headed back is probably because our intel is picking up increased signs of Iranian preparations, drones, missiles being readied, and so forth, radio communications, imagery intelligence, and other things, probably indicating that they're approaching a moment of decision on doing this. So that's probably why he's coming back in. We've been expecting something like this for several days. I've gotten calls from all over the world, people saying, is it going to happen now? Is it going to happen now? And my view was, in the past, the Ayatollahs, the mullahs, have been extremely cautious, sly, using other people to fight their battles, and hanging back because they are preparing nuclear weapons. Some people say they've got a couple, some people say not quite yet, and they want to protect that program from Israel. If they do go ahead and launch a major strike against Israel, which I guess they could with an attempt to overwhelm Israeli defenses with multiple drones from different directions and so forth, and maybe some ballistic missiles, I think it invites the kind of Israeli response that will go right at their nuclear capacities. Now, the United States will be saying, no, don't do this, don't do this, don't escalate. But Israel's been talking about trying to get rid of their nuclear capacity in Iran for almost 20 years now. President Obama told them not to do it, didn't give them the means to do it, told them we wouldn't back them. You know, we've come to sort of a potential moment of truth here.
So, you know, Iran is always kind of huffing and puffing and spewing hate against America and Israel, obviously. And yet it's probably unlikely that they want to engage either in a big, full-scale war, right?
That would be my reading. I mean, what do they have? They're winning right now by most people's interpretation. The administration's trying to restrain the Israelis in Gaza. Hamas is still alive. The hostages haven't been returned. If this is stopped with a ceasefire, which the United States is calling for right now, and Hamas escapes, they were going to proclaim themselves as victors in this war. A cynical attack on Israel, and then using their own population as hostages, and then trying to muster world opinion against Israel. If you saw it from Iran's perspective, you'd say, we're winning. Let it cook a while.
I remember, you know, when we went in against Saddam Hussein's Iraqi army, and everyone said, this is the biggest army, I mean, blah, blah, blah. And they were kind of quickly dispatched. What is the Iranian army really like? What's their military capabilities? Are they more of a paper tiger, or are they really something very dangerous and to be taken very, very seriously?
They've got pretty good naval forces in the Gulf. So if they wanted to close the Straits of Hormuz, we'd have a big fight on that. They've got their small boat assets and mine-laying assets pretty well protected in there. They've got air defense. That'd be a tough fight. They've got missiles that could strike, but Israel has extremely good anti-missile capabilities. They've been practicing, the Iranians have been practicing shooting missiles at Israel from Yemen, using the Houthis to test their hardware. But the Israelis have also been learning, and their hardware so far has worked perfectly against the Iranian missiles. Could you overwhelm it with a barrage of 100 missiles? You know, maybe, but I think the Israelis they're pretty much on top of their game in this respect. Is Iran going to actually move ground forces in against Israel through Iraq? Don't think so, but if it tried, this is where the United States interdiction capability probably would come in. We'd probably stop that cold. I mean, there's nothing, this would be a highway of death situation. If you remember 1991, this would be highway of death squared. We'd wipe out those columns if they were coming in. So it's really more likely to be a missile attack or a drone attack if they attack.
So while I have you, let me switch topics for a moment, because you were also the former commander of the U.S. Southern Command, which is responsible for military operations and security in Central and South America and the Caribbean. How concerned should we all be that terrorists are using Central American countries as a starting point to easily and illegally cross our border? And to that point, should the U.S. military be used more aggressively at the border or even within Mexico to prevent terrorism and even to destroy the drug cartels?
You know, I have a hard time seeing the U.S. military doing that because it's just, you got to think of your average 19-year-old who's considering going to college or going to a community college, and suddenly he goes down there, you give him a weapon, and he doesn't speak Spanish, and he doesn't know anybody, and you throw him on the street, say, get rid of all these drug dealers right now. I mean, that doesn't work very well. You know, we intervened in Haiti in 1994. We put the 10th Mountain Division in there. We quickly found out that if you don't speak the language and people are coming up to you and say, he stole my bicycle and all this kind of stuff, your soldiers are not very good at handling that. So this is really not something I'd like to see the U.S. military do. I am concerned about who's coming across that border. I wish we'd passed that legislation that the president had proposed. I wish we could shut that border down and deal with these people and not release them. We know there's military-age males coming in. We know they're coming from all over the world. But the other thing we have to understand is, at least according to what people tell me, is they're already here. There are Russian hit squads, Iranian hit squads, Chinese hit squads already in this country. They haven't been called out yet, but there is clearly an internal security problem that this country will face should major conflict break out. We're not facing that problem squarely right now. We haven't got the internal security, the intelligence, and you know, we almost lost the FISA Act. You know, that FISA Act was critical in terms of getting information on foreigners that are abroad. There was no reason it wasn't passed overwhelmingly, but it wasn't. I think it was a misunderstanding. We did get it passed. We've got to use all of our information collection means against this threat. That's the first line of defense. I'm worried about Haiti. I'm worried about Guyana. And I'm worried about certain countries in Central America and the pathway to the United States borders. But the near-term threat for the United States in its global position still remains Ukraine. We've got to provide assistance. We cannot allow the Russians to overrun Ukraine. We don't have the forces to defend NATO's 2,400-mile front. The Europeans aren't ready. We don't have our industrial base ready. We don't want to go to conscription in this country or in these other countries in Western Europe to try to do this. So, and we don't want a problem in Taiwan. And everybody's watching what the U.S. is doing. You know, it's come down to where our own politics is like a major theater of war. You heard Mike McCall, the Republican congressman, saying people are using Russian talking points in the U.S. Congress and saying what the Russians want them to say. And this is a major Russian campaign. They call it reflexive control. They give you tidbits of information and you are supposed to say, oh, that's really interesting. And you think it's your idea to say what they want you to say. So they tell you, oh, everything in Ukraine is corrupt. All the weapons are they aren't. We've checked those weapons dozens of times. They say you can't afford it. They don't give that money to Ukraine. That money's not going to Ukraine. It's going to U.S. weapons manufacturers in places like Camden, Arkansas, not far from where I live. That's what we're investing in. So that's our major national security threat right now. I think we can deal with the Middle East. We can't take our eye off the ball of Ukraine.